All right, what's going on, everybody? Jesse Montano out here at Amalie Arena, Tampa Bay. Whoa, that was bad. That was horrible. Bad, tough way to end the trip. 8-2 is the final. The Avs lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They gave up 5 goals in the first period. Jussi Annunen was pulled. Alexander Georgiev went in, battled hard, but ultimately the game got away from him. They went back to Annunen in the third. It was just not a good night all around. We're going to get into it, take your guys' questions here. A lot of comments and questions tonight, and a lot of them, most of them, were about goaltending. So I picked a couple. We are gonna talk goaltending. It's gonna be a lot of what we talk about here. But I know there are a lot of questions out there. A lot of them were around goaltending. So let's just dive in here. And we'll start Tracy Wenman on Twitter. Are there even any realistic options in net to trade for? Gibson seems like a huge overpay. Maybe Blackwood. So look, ultimately, guys, this is the issue. This is the situation that the Avs are in. There were so many comments where people say, when do the Avs say enough is enough with this tandem? When does management jump on a trade? And when do they get someone new in here? I haven't had anyone tell me this explicitly, but they're always looking to make this team better, and that includes the goaltending this season. This is the part that I haven't had anyone tell me explicitly, that they're looking, but you'd be crazy to think that they haven't at least priced some options out, that they haven't been looking around. This was an issue from game 1 of this season. They brought in Kaapo Kähkönen. It wasn't realistic to keep 3 guys around. Annunen and Georgiev seemed like they had turned a bit of a corner here, and now it feels a little bit like the wheels have fallen off for Annunen again. So I think the Avs, Chris McFarland, Joe Sakic, management is constantly keeping their eyes open, constantly seeing what options are out there. And yeah, we talked about it on the podcast today that the biggest issue isn't even, stuff like this happens. You have bad nights, sure. The biggest issue right now is that if you're Jared Bednar, and Jared Bednar actually spoke pretty highly of Alexander Georgiev tonight, thought that he battled really hard in net. So let's even say that you're fine with what Georgiev did tonight. You don't have another option you feel comfortable with. This week, they've got to play Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton. We were having the conversation upstairs. Which of those games do you feel comfortable giving Jussi Annunen a start right now? So they understand the situation. They understand the predicament they're in, and they understand the fact that you really only feel like you've got one goalie that you feel any level of confidence in, and even him, he's got some consistency issues that you're working through. Avs management's very well aware of the situation that they're in, and I would be shocked if they weren't pricing things out. But to Tracy's point here, what even are the options? Okay, you can maybe go get John Gibson, but you're going to have to pay quite a bit. You're going to have to pay a little bit extra because Anaheim's going to have to eat half that salary. And there'd have to be money out. We talked about that being a possibility earlier this season, but in that scenario, we were saying you'd maybe have to send Alexander Georgiev back the other way. That doesn't really solve your problem right now. Mackenzie Blackwood, sure, maybe, but again, keep in mind, that is not a bona fide set and forget starter. That would be a guy that you're bringing in to compete with Alexander Georgiev for the job. So it's a tough situation right now. To Tracy's point, not a lot of good options. Shout out to my guy Tracy, by the way. Haven't seen you in a bit. Love you, buddy. Congrats on the wedding. This one from Dwayne, and I think there's a little bit of sarcasm here. Does a bad game ruin an entire season? No. And that's one thing that a lot of people need to remember tonight. It's a horrible game, and there's another question in here that we're going to dig into this a little bit more. Horrible game. The Avs just came off 3 really good games. They're multiple games above 500 after starting 0-4. There's a lot of perspective and a lot of context take this game. This was a butt kicking tonight, no doubt about it. But no, this does not tank the entire season. This one from Paul. Who is this team? The Avs didn't show up. I honestly think that's the best way to describe this game here tonight. The Avs didn't show up. Jared Bednar said their brains weren't turned on. That was how Jared Bednar described this game for the Colorado Avalanche. Our brains weren't turned on. We weren't thinking the game the right way. They didn't show up here tonight, especially not the version of them we've seen on this road trip. So you've got to take a few things out of this. Cale McCarr told me in the locker room, yeah, you can sweep a lot of this game, excuse me, a lot of this game just under the rug and say you move on. You got whooped and you forget about it. But he said we've got to be able to recognize when we aren't playing with our brains, and we got to be able to recognize when we got to turn that on quicker, that it came way too late. Even when Ivan scored to make it 2-1, it just already felt like the game was getting away from them. So the Avs didn't show up here, and there's definitely some things that they can take from this to make sure this doesn't happen again. This one from our girl Avery. Earlier, I asked at what point you and Megan would be worried. You said at the point when no more answers are on the way. At this point, there are no more answers on the way. This is about as healthy as any team can be. Are you worried? No. And I get it. Like this was not good. This Tampa team took it to them a couple weeks ago in Denver as well. I understand this sentiment. I do. But no, again, we have to keep in mind, the Avs just came off 3 of their best games of this season so far, including against a very good Florida Panthers team just 2 nights ago. You're still missing Ross Colton. No Jonathan Drouin tonight. I'm not worried about this team. I think despite what we saw here tonight, I still think this is a team trending in the right direction. This was an off night. This was a really bad night for them. But they've shown every reason to believe this core is going to bounce back from this. We are not at the get worried part of the season yet. This one from Corey. Simple question. Do you think this is a game to forget about? I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we just won 3 in a row on the road versus some very good teams. Some nights you get your asses kicked. Yes, Corey's got it spot on. He is spot on this. This is a game that you largely forget about. And again, Jared Bednar and Cale Makar both said, of course, there's always things you can take out of a game. But Jared Bednar made the point. You have to turn the page quickly because you don't have time. You got a game against the Vegas Golden Knights in 2 nights. You're traveling back tonight. You got a day off tomorrow. Then you're right back at it trying to beat another very good team. Then you get the Thanksgiving holiday. Great. Then the next night, you're in Dallas playing a very good division opponent. Then the next night, you're back at home against the Edmonton Oilers, who just went to the Stanley Cup Final 6 months ago. 5 months ago. I don't even know what month it is. You don't have time. To Corey's point, really all you can do is forget about it, move on, take those little bits that Cale Makar was talking about, being able to identify in your game quicker, and you move on. Back to our girl Avery here. If I can find it. McKinnon's rush zone entry has been neutralized by several teams this year. What does he or the team need to do to reinvigorate their zone entries, typically one of their strongest abilities? Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar are one-man zone entries. They can do it by themselves. There's been several times this year where I've actually felt like the Avs have gotten away from what has made them successful, which is get the puck to Nathan McKinnon with speed, Cale Makar, let them get the zone, and then set up beyond that. I felt like they've tried to change it up too many times, and I feel like they're overcomplicating things for themselves sometimes on these zone entries. When you're going through stretches like that, sometimes the best solution is just simplify, make it easier on yourself, and I think that's what the Avs could stand to do on that. Last one, we are going to round out here from Avs Dev Daddy. You know I'm always going to pick a daddy one. I know that I have zero qualification to say this, but the Avs goaltending does have to be a concern for management at this point, right? Which we already talked about, but I like the next part of this. Seems like a lot of soft goals from this tandem this year has to be raising red flags by now. This was my issue with Jussi Salonen tonight. Again, like we've established several times already, you're going to get your butts kicked sometimes. That's just going to happen. It's hockey. You play 82 games, you're going to get smoked. It's the fact that too many of these were easy tonight. Too many of them, the Tampa Bay Lightning were not having to work for. When the score was 8-2, the Avs were sitting at an expected goals against of right at 3. That tells you that you had goalies, or, tonight, in my opinion, it was one more than the other, who weren't doing their job and weren't making the saves that they were supposed to make. You guys hear me talk about that all the time. Make the saves you're supposed to make, a couple extra that you're not. Jussi Salonen wasn't doing that. It is the soft goals that are the concerning part for me, for what we're seeing in net, specifically Jussi Salonen tonight. Those are the ones you just can't have. You can't have those on repeat. Can't be the soft goals all the time. That's going to do it from Florida, guys. I want to give a huge shout out to our great friends over at Landmark Lincoln, helping make all of this coverage possible for you guys. Go to landmarklincoln.com, stop by and see them off Broadway in Denver. See if you can qualify for 90 days, no payments, especially now around the holidays. Who couldn't use a few months of deferred payments? So see if you qualify. Check out all their great offers and incentives. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Corsair GT plug-in hybrid. You have to go to the website. You have to stop in, see the unbelievable incentives they're running before the end of the year to get yourself in a new plug-in hybrid. They're beautiful. We got to go down and check a bunch of them out. We're down, we're always down hanging out with our friends over at Landmark Lincoln. They're great. You got to go check them out, landmarklincoln.com. That's going to do it, guys. I will be back in Denver tomorrow. No show tomorrow. Be back at it on Wednesday in studio, but that's a wrap here from Tampa Bay. Avs go 3-1 on the trip. So, again, I know people aren't loving tonight. Avs still go 3-1 on the trip. Jared Bednar said you will take that all day, every day, given the teams you played against, the cities you played in, and the amount of travel. Been gone for 9 days here. Solid trip for the Avs, but they do lose here tonight in Tampa Bay. I'm Jesse Montana's Guerilla Sports. We'll talk to you soon.